We are live.
My name is Dr. Orijemie Imobosa Apo. I am an archaeologist, and I also my main area of archaeology is palynology, environmental reconstruction, and archaeobotany. I have a first degree in botany, and then my master's and PhD degrees are in archaeology from the University of Ibadan, and I have had some training within and outside Nigeria, and I'm currently a senior lecturer in the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology, University of Ibadan. Wow, that's a tough question because honestly, I didn't know that I would build a career in archaeology, but I can just explain how I got into archaeology. After my first degree, I wanted to do a master's degree, and the area I was looking at was palynology, obviously, and Professor Shomi was the senior person, and she needed to approve the person's application. And I thought I would do it under botany because my first degree was in botany. So I approached her, and after back and forth, I don't want to give the details here, and she gave 3 conditions. That one of the conditions was that I had to do my master's degree in archaeology, and I asked her what were the advantages, and she, in about 10 minutes, she educated me, and that's how my journey started in 2002. And we resumed for the master's session in 2003, I think May or June 2003. And since then, I've not looked back because I found it very interesting and I'm quite fulfilled.
So what challenges did you face early in your career?
Well, I think I faced the challenges that every student faces because as a fresh master student who didn't really have much knowledge about archaeology, I had to learn from the lecturers then. Specifically, I will mention 2 of them. Professor then Dr. Raphael A. Alabi taught me many things about fieldwork, and then Dr. Tubosun also taught me quite a lot about fieldwork. So I had to learn many things from the scratch. And one of the ways I learned was that I was attending undergraduate classes, especially the environmental archaeology classes, and it was fun for me. That process helped me to learn a lot about archaeology. And of course, I was also a regular visitor to the Kennedy Library. I was reading quite a lot of things. So even though at the beginning they were quite challenging, but subsequently I think they became part of me. And then when I became employed, one of the greatest challenges I had was funding, because I had so many ideas. However, I didn't have money, or I didn't have access to funding to carry out the kinds of research that I wanted to carry out. So I was using my small salary, taking out of it. I would discuss with my wife, we'll plan, take a small part of it, go on this field work, go on that field work, go on this international conference. So, those were the challenges that I had at the very beginning. But of course, they turned out to be very instrumental to my career in archaeology as it is today. And I'm very grateful to have, passed through that process.
Question: was there a defining moment that solidified your passion for archaeology?
Many defining moments. I have many defining moments. I think the first I would like to talk about is the teachings and the training that I had under Professor Shomi. They are very fundamental to what I am today. She made us read, not just myself, my set, read many articles. For my master's degree, I must have read over 200 papers or thereabouts that, were made to read. Of course, not just in one course. I mean, in the different, she taught us about 6 courses when we put all the 6 courses together. And not just reading them, you come to class and then you discuss them. And we're not many, we're 4 or 5. So there was no hiding place. So you really had to read and understand what you're saying. And then you come the following day, be confident, so we learned under that kind of system. The second defining moment was when Professor Folonshaw, under the British Academy Council, organized a program called the African Farming Network Program. It connected 4 universities or 4 institutions: University of Ibadan, VIT University in South Africa, the Kenya National Museums, and Cambridge University. So we went to South Africa, we went to Kenya, we went to TIV in Nigeria, and then we ended up in Cambridge for a short workshop. So that moment exposed me to the international scene of archaeology, and how to interact with colleagues that are not Nigerians, Africans, and Europeans. And then that same year, or shortly after, 2015, I had to apply for a Newton International Fellowship, which of course I got, and then I spent 2 years in Cambridge. So this series of events, were defining moments in my career. And when I was in Cambridge, I met another fantastic lady, Professor Sherry Elena, with whom I'm currently working in Germany. So if you look at that, trajectory, that's very important in my career. Welcome.
My next question: what are some of the most memorable excavations or projects you've completed?
All my projects have been memorable, really, because you find specific interesting things from them. For example, my PhD excavation, Tunde Babalola came to help me, and then Professor Dr. Alabi, then now Professor Alabi also assisted as well. So those excavations were in Ahamvi near Badagry, really very, very interesting. And then I returned to TIV, where Professor Anda excavated between 1975 and 1983. So re-excavating Shedura Rock Shelter 1 was really very fantastic, because it was like a heritage. A great mind had come to excavated that place before, and then me going back there to continue from where Professor Anda stopped was really a defining moment for me in terms of fantastic excavation. Working with Professor Akin Ogudiran too was very good in Old Oyo. Old Oyo landscape is very challenging, but working with Professor Ogudiran exposes you to quite a lot of techniques in excavation, and those were really very beautiful times, that I enjoyed the most.
Have you ever made a discovery that changed your perspective on archaeology?
Yes. Positive perspective, obviously. For my PhD, there was a site that we excavated, and we were told it there was a large tree there in the past, but the tree fell many years ago, and nobody knew what tree it was, things like that. So I just thought, let's just see. We excavated it, we found pieces of wood at the bottom, and then we did the wood anatomy, and it came out to match the tree that the people had talked about in the oral traditions. So that helped me to understand that oral history, oral tradition is very key. Even though it is not documented in written form, it is documented in oral form. So that helped to solidify my interest, and then interest in archaeology, and the need to do more research. A second opportunity that I got was when I was working in TIV land, and I wanted to recover the archaeobotanical evidence of yams, because hitherto this had not been recovered globally. And I remember many archaeologists were really looking forward to doing that. But as God will have it, it just happened that I and my colleagues found what is now referred to as charred parenchyma of Dioscorea, which is yam, and that was it. So that changed the perspective, in a sense that people didn't expect to find that kind of discovery from Nigeria, of Africa, so to speak, and it has come from from us, and it is really something that makes you to know that don't give up, just keep moving on. You will eventually get something that will project you beyond your wildest dreams.
Thank you very much. And next question is, what aspect of archaeology do you enjoy the most? Field research, or
Wow. Well, how do I grade these now? I enjoy field work a lot. I love lab work, and I'm made to teach. Anyway, of course, teaching is key, because you teach what you discover. Without going to the field and bringing your materials into the lab to analyze, assess them, you won't have any new discoveries. You won't have new things to say, and it is those new things you find or you discover that you teach your students. So if I were to grade them, I love fieldwork, honestly speaking, because it takes you outside your comfort zone. You sometimes sleep in tents, go to very difficult environments. I also love the lab. Of course, I'm sure many of you know now that I love the microscope so much that I can work on the microscope for hours on ending, even though it affects one's eyes, but you have to take some precaution. But teaching is lovely because you are discussing with students, you are impacting knowledge. So it's enjoyable. I really do not know how to place it, but I think I enjoy all three. I don't know in what proportion or percentage.
thank you very much. Can you share an experience where archaeology affected the modern society and unexpectedly?
I'm trying to think. I think I can remember one of my field works in northern part of Edo State. I was looking for ancient settlement sites, and fortunately for me, I saw a pottery making community. That community has a reputation for making pottery for, of course, I don't want to say millennia because I don't know how long they've been doing, but they've been doing it for quite a while. I was introduced to one of the pot making families. Of course, there are women who do this kind of stuff, and I stayed with them for a while, understanding the culture of pottery production, and I was educated through the process from collection to manufacture to display to marketing. I mean, how they sell their product. So that's one of the ways archaeology links to contemporary society. Another way that this functions very well is in identifying and addressing food security challenges, as we have it in Nigeria today. Nigeria is currently termed a food insecure nation. About 33, last time I checked, FAO termed 33.1 million Nigerians to be nutritionally poor. What that means is that people are not getting the basic nutrition, either from fruits, vitamins, carbohydrates, and all that. So Nigeria is experiencing this challenge. How can archaeology or the knowledge of archaeology help to address this problem? I found out in some of my excavations that the communities that I have studied, they did not experience what we are experiencing currently, food challenges, despite the fact that they also had environmental instability, they had political instability as well, but they were able to manage the system in such a way that their sources of food or food resources were very regular, they were reliable, and they ensured that they were safe. So once we use this knowledge of archaeology to address the current challenges, what are sources of food? Are they safe, first of all? Are they reliable? Are they regular? Once we can address these things, we can solve part of the food security issues that we have in Nigeria today. And lastly, archaeology tells us that our people, our ancestors, were growing indigenous crops. There's nothing wrong in, bringing in foreign crops, for example, but not at the detriment of indigenous crops. Today, Nigeria is investing a whole lot on wheat, on the production of wheat. While we have alternative to wheat, we have sorghum, we have millet and pale millet. These two crops are indigenous, and in fact, not just these two, we have fonio. We also have finger millet. These are indigenous crops that are alternatives to wheat and can be used. What happens if the country you're importing wheat from says, I'm sorry, we are not in good political terms, we're going to cut your supply? Just the way we had in Ukraine. Ukraine had been in war with Russia for the past 3 years. They are world leaders in the production of wheat. So what happens in that kind of situation? Nigerians will starve. So archaeology tells us that we should emphasize the production of our indigenous, crops and plants. Of course, we can have other imports, but these are just to complement what we have already.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
What are the various career paths available to aspiring archaeologists today?
There are quite a lot of career options for archaeologists today. The most popular ones are those who work in museums or in a kind of a cultural setting where objects are kept or materials of cultural importance are kept. Archaeologists can also work in institutions where culture is a hallmark or part of it is cultural. One of the places we like to cite is as an attaché, a cultural attaché in embassies, in mission houses of countries. Of course, archaeologists can also work with the United Nations, UNICEF, and so on. Of course, like a teacher like myself, archaeologists can be a teacher, even though many of you don't want to be teachers, but that's fine. Of course, you can also work in research institutions. You can also be advisors, to government, to establishment on specific areas. It must not be, not necessarily be culture. It could be environmental. It could be on climate change. It could be on food security. You can also work with the media. There are a lot of films going on these days that require the input of archaeologists. Archaeologists have the historical knowledge, historical antecedents to these things. You can supply, these kinds of data. You can also learn certain things in the media. Like one of our students is working on Archaeoinformatics of a building, so you can learn that and then float your own company. And another very lucrative area is in tourism. Popola Zainab is doing that currently in Ibadan, and there are others like that. So there are a lot of areas where archaeologists can actually work. I think it depends on the interest of the student and what kind of skills the student has to offer.
Thank you very much. What skills do you think are essential for success in archaeology?
First, as I would like to reiterate, you need resilience, because archaeology is actually a tough discipline. Imagine you going to the field to spend weeks excavating in very challenging environment. If you're not resilient, then you will be easily discouraged, tired, and you leave that place. So you have to be resilient. Secondly, you also have to be patient, because sometimes you might not get what you desire, but with patience you get there. Your archaeologists also, upcoming archaeologists also need to be familiar with some of the tech tools that are available, especially AI tools, as well as coding tools or modeling tools. Some of the tools that are very popular: Python, R, and this other one, I've forgotten its name right now. So these are tools that algorithm, yes, that can help you, jiggle, work on your data and ensure that it brings out more than what the eyes, could not literally see. Archaeologists also need to be well equipped with fieldwork skills, how to manage yourself during the field, in terms of the equipment that we use. All the equipment, the compass, the dumping level, the tape, how to your simple mathematics, how to grid. Those skills are essential. You cannot run away from those skills. You also need to learn how to do maps, how to draw maps. These are easy skills that will easily come very handy when you're in the field. And in terms of laboratory skills, there are quite a lot. You could look at archaeobotany, zooarchaeology. You could look at DNA, and so on and so forth. So there are quite a lot of skills that are available. If they are not available currently in the country, you can use YouTube, or other online resources to get them.
Thank you very much, sir. How do you see Archaeoinformatics influencing this field?
Wow, I think Archaeoinformatics is going to cause an explosion in archaeology, because the kind of gadget and the kind of opportunity that it opens, to the field is really mind-blowing. I've seen what Archaeoinformatics can do, especially in Benin, where this is being used more often or currently. So it's really very interesting when you see using drone to take so many points or pictures of a particular object or building at different points, and then feeding that into a model, and then viewing that is really very, like a 3D model. That is really very important. Of course, it's also important in terms of preservation and conservation. When we cannot recover material, we cannot preserve material, we can take photographs of them and then put them into 3D, and then that's available in the public space. So people don't necessarily have to come to visit the museum itself. They can do that online. It also helps, to discover, archaeological landscapes that are buried either under the ground or in thick forests. The LiDAR, for example, has been used, I think, twice now in Shugbo and in Benin. And the kind of details that the LiDAR gives is really very interesting, and it makes the job of an archaeologist easier and more exciting. So I think Archaeoinformatics is going to be very explosive, and we look forward to having more of that in Ibadan here, as we collaborate with people who have such skills within and outside Nigeria.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for taking time to share your insights and experience. And to round off, we would love to ask that what advice would you give to students or young professionals who want to make an impact in archaeology?
The first thing, you need to fall in love with archaeology. I think that's basic. If you don't fall in love with archaeology, it becomes difficult for you to really get the maximum that you can derive from it, maximum benefit. So right from my first year as a master's student in this department, I just knew I had to put in my best, and gradually I fell in love with what I'm doing currently. So the first step is to fall in love with archaeology. The second step is to fall in love with it. The third step is to fall in love with archaeology again. And then the final step is to think what areas excite you. Of course, there are various areas: African art, African history, historical archaeology, environmental archaeology, quaternary archaeology, settlement archaeology, development archaeology, CRM, and so on. So you have to think and say, okay, I love this area, I can contribute better in this area, and then you pursue it. Then you need not restrict yourself to what is available. Of course, you make do with that, but available within your local environment. if you are looking for something in archaeology and is not currently available, or it is underutilized, you could go elsewhere. Elsewhere not necessarily mean not only that you travel outside Nigeria, you can be in contact with many people within Nigeria and still achieve your aims. You also need to step out of the box, right, and join, participate in several field exercises. That helps you to bond with other people from other parts of the country, learn new skills, understand the field better, and then when opportunity comes, you can easily contribute your best. So I think with this few advice, or few words, that are enough to get you standing, and never get discouraged, because you always hit bump from time to time, but when you fall down, you stand up, and go on. Especially when you send the paper out for publication, the reviewers come back, and what they write to you is really sometimes very annoying. You sit back, absorb it, write, read, and then you move on. You're welcome.
Guys, please follow YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and share. Love you. Thank you. Bye.